and welcome to Whispers Beyond Midnight, where the signal doesn't begin, it resurfaces, rising like breath on cold glass, silent and circular, the way dreams repeat themselves when you're not watching closely enough. The room is not dark, but it is wrong, lit sideways, like memory spun off axis, with shadows where there should be corners and corners where the walls never meet. You stand on creaking wood you do not remember walking across, your feet bare, your pulse slow, like something waiting for permission to wake. On the far wall, the mirror watches you, not with eyes, but with hunger. It doesn't reflect what you do, it reflects what you were. A version of yourself 5 seconds ago, mouthing something your lips haven't yet learned. The time on the clock reads 3:33, and it always will, because the clock is painted on the wall now. Not ticking, just staring. There's static in the corners, real static, like what used to whisper from broken radios, white noise thick enough to breathe, carrying a voice that doesn't use words. You reach for the mirror and feel the resistance, not of glass, but of breath, like pressing your palm to the chest of someone holding theirs. The mirror is warm, but not from the room, from something behind it, deeper, older, waiting. You hear your own voice, but it's in reverse, mouthing syllables you forgot how to shape, asking things like, where were you before the first time this happened? There's a photo frame on the dresser beside you, but it holds no picture, only a square of mirror cracked down the center. In it, your reflection blinks before you do. The floorboards exhale, the ceiling contracts, the air warps with a sound you've never heard but always recognized. And suddenly the furniture is rearranged, politely, like it moved only when your eyes turned. The suitcase by the door is older than the room, its leather sides stitched with something finer than thread, something closer to nerve. You crouch beside it, tracing the latches that shudder under your fingers, and when you lift the lid, the smell inside is you. Not you now, but you then. The version of yourself that vanished in a dream 2 nights ago. Or was it 2 lives? Inside, there are folded clothes you don't own. Notes you never wrote in your own handwriting. A snow globe with a cabin that doesn't stop snowing, even when shaken, even when you scream, but you don't scream, not out loud. You think it instead. And the mirror responds by fogging over in one long breath. There's a name written in the mist, and it's not yours, but it waits for you to claim it. And you almost do, almost whisper it aloud, but the house shifts again, gently, like a cradle being nudged. A hallway extends where none existed, long and thin and lined with picture frames that grow less visible the closer you get. At the end, a radio crackles behind a door that isn't a door, just a frame with fabric hanging like skin. The voice is clearer now, not closer, but more certain, and it says something you can't remember ever forgetting. You've been here before, but this time, something has followed you through. You look back, but the mirror doesn't reflect you anymore. It reflects the hallway, empty, except for the suitcase dragging itself slowly behind you, leaving no tracks in the dustless floor, only a whisper trail, like a sigh made solid. And that's where you realize you haven't been breathing, but something has, through you, around you, with you, waiting for the moment you blink first. You awaken mid-step, foot hovering over the faded yellow line like it's the edge of something sacred, not road, not boundary, but a seam being stitched by time in reverse. Fog hugs your legs, ankle deep and pulsing gently like breath. The air here is made of paper, soft and old, ink bleeding through the folds. Each step forward isn't walking, it's remembering. The road beneath you whispering its own name into your souls, syllables that echo like childhood but aren't quite yours. The flashlight in your hand isn't on, but it still reveals things. Not with light, but with knowing. And where it points, reality folds inward slightly, like a page being turned by invisible fingers. You see road signs with no words, only mirrored reflections of your own back, walking further ahead than you meant to be. You call out softly, but your voice doesn't travel. It loops around your ears, whispering back a phrase you haven't said aloud since the first time the house vanished. It ends where you begin. The fog thickens in patterns, curls into letters, spells your name backward, then forward again, but wrong. A suitcase rattles open beside the ditch, its contents folding and unfolding themselves like breathing paper birds. Every time you blink, one more thing rearranges. The mile marker changes to 3:33. The asphalt turns slightly softer, like flesh remembering pressure. And far ahead, across a bend that was not there before, you see the shape of a sign rising out of the fog. Not metal, not wood, something older. It hums with a low tone that vibrates in your teeth. And on it, carved into velvet darkness, you are here, even when you're not. The words burn softly, without heat, and the road responds by stretching. Not longer, but deeper, like it wants to be walked again, by the version of you that forgot how to stop. And still, the map writes, not on paper, not in code, but in you, in the way your pulse skips at that one tree you recognize from a photograph that never existed, in the way your breath catches at the sight of an old motel sign that blinks in the corner of your vision, then disappears when looked at directly, in the way the sky above doesn't quite stay in place, like it's being redrawn, constantly, by a hand that doesn't care for symmetry. Somewhere behind you, tires crunch gravel, slow and soft, like they've always been following. And the radio in your back pocket, you don't know when it got there, begins to crackle a familiar frequency. A voice half yours, half memory, whispering, the road doesn't end, it loops. The road, and when you turn to look behind, there is only the fog, and a second pair of footprints, walking in perfect time beside yours. You stop walking because the sound changes, not silence, not wind, but a hush that moves upward, like breath being drawn by the sky itself. And then, like a curtain lifting in reverse, you see it. The rain rising, not mist or steam, but true rain, drop by drop, climbing in slow arcs toward the clouds that hang lower than they should. Each droplet rises with purpose, tracing paths so deliberate it feels rehearsed, like a ritual you've interrupted by simply being awake at the wrong moment. The drops catch light, and inside them, faint but real, are letters, names, yours among them, spelled in the shape of falling tears played backward. A child's voice in the fog murmurs something you almost recognize. A nursery rhyme your mother never sang. A lullaby written in water and meant to be forgotten. You reach up without knowing why. Hand open, fingers trembling, and one of the droplets touches your palm. Cold, but soft, as if the rain knows how to be gentle. And suddenly you remember a name that isn't yours, but lives behind your teeth, burned there by memory or dream or mistake. The name fades as quickly as it comes, swallowed by the whispering wind that now moves upward too, like gravity has turned tired of pulling and is letting go. Around you, trees shift in reverse, their leaves uncurling, falling upward into freshly sealed buds. Birds flapping wings they haven't used yet, flying backward through branches not yet grown. You step forward and the road ripples under your feet, the lines flickering in Morse patterns that stutter with hesitation. Somewhere ahead, the mirror is waiting again. You don't see it, but you feel it, that quiet tug in your chest that means it's watching even before it arrives. Your reflection is coming closer, but not from in front of you. From the sky above, like a ghost swimming upward through the rain. You look up and see it at last. Your own face, upside down in the clouds, watching with eyes that do not blink. And the rain continues to rise, passing through you now, carrying forgotten names etched on droplets too small to hold grief, but heavy enough to pull your thoughts skyward. The suitcase is beside you again, unopened this time, though its handle is warm as if freshly touched. The photo you didn't pack is sticking out from under its strap again, but now there's a figure standing in the background, far off, blurred, a figure that wasn't there before, or maybe always was. The photo vibrates faintly, like it remembers being held by someone who didn't make it to the end of the road. And as the sky drinks every last drop from the earth, you hear the whisper return. Not from the radio now, but from the rain itself, echoing between droplets like sound trapped in crystal. You're not alone. Others stay, like you, listening. And in the distance, a flicker, not light, but movement. Something shifting when you look away, always when you look away. And you realize, without knowing how, that the names the rain carries upward aren't written to be remembered. They're written to be replaced, one by one, letter by letter, until the last one left is yours. You step through the door that wasn't there before. No knob, no hinges, just fabric where air used to be, swaying like breath held too long. And on the other side, a room, familiar, unfamiliar, familiar again, reshaping itself even as you try to hold its edges in your mind. The ceiling slants wrong, as if the room is tilting towards something beneath it. The wallpaper peels in reverse, climbing back into place with a sound like slow applause. The floorboards throb like a slowed heartbeat, warm in some spots, cold in others. And every time you blink, something shifts. The chair by the mirror isn't where it was. The lamp hums a little louder. The suitcase now sits open, halfway across the room, and something inside moves just enough to stop when you notice. You blink. The door you came through has vanished, replaced by a bookshelf filled with identical books, all titled Before It Happened. You reach for one, and your fingers sink into the spine like flesh. It breathes. You let go. You blink. The mirror is closer now. It wasn't before. But it is now a freestanding oval frame with no reflection inside. Only the room behind you, but in reverse. There's a version of you sitting in the chair that wasn't there. Back turned, unmoving. You blink. The figure is gone. The chair rocks once, then stills. Your breath fogs the air, though the room is not cold. And written there, on the window pane, from to the inside, the words, "You moved first." The radio crackles on a table beside the lamp, even though you haven't touched it. Its dial spins slowly on its own, skipping across stations too fast to settle, all of them whispering in overlapping voices, not in conversation, but in synchronization. They say things like, "She blinked, and the wall wasn't there anymore." And the hallway folds itself when it's not being watched. And don't forget where the mirror really started. The floor creaks not under your feet, but beside them, like someone pacing, like someone trying to match your rhythm. The window shows nothing now but fog pressed flat against the glass, and something drawing lazy circles in it from the outside. The kind of movement a fingertip might make, but wider, longer, as if drawn by something taller than the window should allow. You close your eyes, just for a moment, and when you open them, the room has rearranged itself again. But it's subtler this time. The books have changed titles. Now they all read. After you left, the mirror is where the window was, and your reflection is there now, but it's not looking at you. It's looking at something behind you, something tall and blurred and almost human, almost. You turn, nothing. You blink. The reflection's hand is raised, as if reaching toward the glass, but your hands stay still, frozen and at your sides. You want to leave, but the room has made that impossible. Every wall now curves inward, not closing, not yet, just watching, like the room is listening for your next breath to decide what shape it should take. And somewhere beneath the floor, something knocks 3 times. Slow, deliberate, patient. And you know, with the certainty that only dreams can give, that it knocks every time you blink, just to remind you who's still down there, just to remind you who isn't blinking back. You don't remember kneeling, but you're already there. Knees pressed into the soft grain of a floor that pulses faintly beneath you. A slow tide of memory moving backward through the wood. And in front of you, the suitcase waits. Not open, not shut, not still. Just there, breathing faintly. The kind of motion you feel more than see. Like a sleeping chest, or something pretending to sleep. The leather is cracked in shapes that resemble continents you've never been to, but miss anyway. Each scar a border, each stitch a road you should have taken but didn't. And you reach for the latch, not out of curiosity, not out of fear, but because it already knows your hands. It already bears the print of your grip, as if it packed itself around you long before now. The moment your fingers brush the metal, the air around you tightens, not with tension, but with presence. The room pressing closer as if it, too, is watching. Not from above or below, but from inside. And when the latch clicks open, the sound is too loud, like it echoes through other rooms, where other versions of you are opening identical suitcases at the same time, their breath catching in the same place yours does now. The lid lifts slowly, and the contents inside shift like thoughts trying to become dreams. There are clothes, yes, folded with impossible precision, seams aligned like incantations, garments you've never worn but that know the curve of your shoulders, the bend of your elbows, the weight of your silence. Beneath them, a stack of photographs bound by string, the kind of string used to tie fingers together in childhood pacts you forgot to keep. Each photo is of a room you almost remember, and in the center of each, a mirror, sometimes cracked, sometimes fogged, always angled just enough to not quite show you, but something close to you, maybe closer than you've ever been to yourself. And there's a sound now, a soft rhythmic rustle, not from within the suitcase, but from beneath it, like it's resting on paper. No, not paper. Maps, curled and yellowing, each labelled in your own handwriting with places you've never been but seem to have written postcards from. You lift one, and beneath it lies a small snow globe, still and perfect, its glass cold against your palm. And inside, a tiny room, a familiar window, and a figure with its back to you, unmoving, forever facing the tiny mirror at the opposite wall. You shake it, and the snow inside moves upward for a moment, defying logic, then falls too slowly, as if deciding whether to obey gravity this time. And that's when you notice. Your breath is fogging the surface of the globe, not the air around you. It's as if it's closer to your lungs than the room itself, as if you're inside the thing already, looking out, dreaming outward through glass and paper and time. And the suitcase creaks softly again, a sound like someone settling deeper into a bed that isn't theirs. And underneath everything you find the last item, a clock, face down, ticking gently with no hands, just a circular hum that resonates in your sternum, in your teeth, in the back of your eyes. And as you stare into the hollow of the suitcase, a flicker in the mirror across the room draws your attention, and there, reflected, is the suitcase still in place, still open, but inside it, you, kneeling, miniature, staring upward through the glass dome of a snow globe that sits inside another suitcase, inside another room, inside another breath. And it goes on like this. A folding of selves into smaller and smaller truths, until the only thing left holding it all together is the string binding the photos, tied now around your wrist. Gently, gently, like a reminder or a leash. And when you try to stand, the suitcase closes itself, not violently, not to trap, just to end the moment, just to return to stillness. And when you look down, it's no longer there, but your arms feel heavier, your hands smell of leather and dust and snowfall, and you know, without needing proof, that some part of you has already packed itself away and is still waiting somewhere else. In the version of the room that only appears when you blink twice too fast and open your eyes into someone else's memory. You hear it before you feel it, a thin shimmer in the air like spider silk made of sound, delicate and stinging, curling around your spine before you can name it. A static hum that isn't quite electrical, isn't quite mechanical, but lives somewhere in the breath between wires and want, like the memory of a voice left behind in an unplugged phone. The source is unclear, yet the feeling is immediate. Everything tingles at the edge of comprehension, like standing too close to an invisible screen tuned to a channel that never existed. One, your teeth remember more than your ears. You follow the pull, not with your feet, but with your chest. A tightness just beneath the breastbone that drags you gently through a hallway lined with peeling wallpaper. Its pattern repeating and repeating. Not floral, not geometric, but mirrors, thousands of tiny printed mirrors that do not reflect light, only intent. And at the end, sitting on a wooden shelf that sags with the weight of nothing else, is the radio. Old, boxy, its dials rubbed smooth by fingers you've never seen but know intimately. Its speaker humming with a thin layer of frost you do not see but somehow smell. The scent of distant thunder and old metal and something burned long ago but never buried. You don't touch it. It touches you. Its voice, when it speaks, arrives not from the speaker but from the air around it, warping your shadow into someone else's shape. The words don't come in order, don't come in language, they come in need. When this ends, something else begins. You don't need to choose. And you understand, not with logic, but with ache. Your hands vibrate faintly, like tuning forks struck by the breath of the past, and as the static thickens, images drift into your mind uninvited. A road dissolving into fog just before the curve, a suitcase forgotten beside a hollow tree, a face in a mirror you never met but always feared. The radio continues, spitting small bursts of static between thoughts like teeth grinding against sleep. And each time you blink, the knobs change position, tuning you instead of the other way around. One moment, the sound is the rain falling upward again, whispering names it should not know. The next, it is the creak of a rocking chair in an attic no one has entered since you left the light on. And then, suddenly, it's your voice, not echoing, but rehearsed, as though you had spoken these words long ago and left them here, in this object, to return when the frequency found you again. It says, leave the static on. It finds you easier that way. And just for a moment, the air clears, the hum falls away, and in the silence, you hear everything. Not sound, but structure. The bones of the world rearranging themselves around the rhythm of your breath. And you realize, in the stillness, that the static wasn't interference. It was memory. It was the echo of choices never made, playing in reverse, so you could hear what was behind the silence. And now, without trying, you know which station to turn to. The dial shifts beneath your fingertips, landing softly on 333, and the voice returns. Not old, not new, just ongoing. This is Whispers Beyond Midnight, listening, always. And though the room hasn't changed, it feels smaller, like the walls are leaning in to hear better, like something behind the wallpaper is holding its breath. And when you turn to leave, the door is gone, but the static stays, trailing behind you like fog, like thread, like a memory you'll forget just in time for it to find you again. You walk without walking, the hall folding under your feet like film melting through an old projector, grainy and flickering. And when you blink, the world catches up, not in real time but in memory, replaying itself slightly out of sync, so that each breath feels like deja vu whispered through someone else's lungs. The walls breathe too, slow and shallow, as if the house itself is holding back a scream meant only for the moments between seconds. And with every step you take, the light dims, not fading, but curling inward, like it's hiding from your gaze, retreating into corners that weren't there a moment ago. And then you see it, not directly, not in front of you, but in reflection. The mirror, one of many now, stacked like vertebrae along the hallway, tall and thin, breathing condensation despite the stillness in the air. And in each one, something is slightly wrong, not monstrous, not grotesque, but misaligned. Your reflection flickers half a second behind, its eyes too wide, or not wide enough, its jaw clenched even as yours hangs loose with sleep. You lean into the nearest one, breath fogging the glass, and for a heartbeat, or maybe the space between heartbeats, the reflection smiles when you don't. You pull away, but the mirror pulls with you, not physically, but through the stare, its gaze threading into your spine like a fishing line, cast from behind the glass. And now every mirror you pass begins to glow faintly, the same glow as the radio dial, the same time, 3:33. Each reflection now looks deeper, as if it's not looking back at you but past you, into the thoughts you tried not to carry. And then it happens. The moment of slipping, not of time, but of perspective. Because now, you're not looking into the mirror. You're inside it. And through the warped pane of silvered glass, you see yourself passing by, distracted, unaware, a sleepwalker you've never met. You reach out, but your fingers touch only more glass, colder than ice, warmer than blood. And behind you, in the reflection space, there are other mirrors, angled to infinity, each one holding a different version of you, some whispering, some crying, some perfectly still. And one, just one, is watching you directly, not blinking, not smiling, just waiting. The version of you that never turned away, that kept looking too long and saw what wasn't meant to be seen. And now it's closer. Each time you blink, it moves closer through the layers, peeling down dimensions like wet paper, folding through reflections that no longer reflect but consume. You close your eyes and hear your own voice from the other side of the glass. This is what it feels like to be remembered. And in that moment, a single cold tear escapes from one eye, not yours, but the reflection's, and it trails upward, not down, floating gently toward the ceiling like it's weightless, or like it never belonged to a face at all. And you realize the mirrors aren't watching you, they are you, slivers of self, placed here long ago like bookmarks in a story too painful to read forward, too familiar to read again. And as you stagger back from the wall, your shoulder brushes one of the taller mirrors, and instead of shattering, it sighs, gently, like someone waking from your dream. And all the other mirrors exhale in reply, fogging and defogging in time with your breath, synchronized like lungs caught in a trance. And when you turn, the hallway is gone, replaced by a room without doors, without corners, just walls made entirely of mirrored glass, stretching in all directions, including down. And inside each wall, something walks, not always in sync, not always you, but always watching, blinking only when you don't, moving only when you look away. Time does not tick here, it hums, low and continuous like a throat, remembering how to sing after silence. And the sound doesn't come from above or around, but inside. A vibration that rattles your bones gently, the way a childhood melody hides behind your heartbeat long after you've forgotten the words. The room breathes with it, softly, in long pulses that stretch the seconds until they're too thin to hold anything but memory. And in the center of the room, resting on a table that wasn't there, and now always was, is a clock, circular and wrong, a face without hands, without numbers, without edge, just a smooth ring of polished glass that reflects nothing but the past. You approach slowly, not out of fear, but recognition, because something in your stomach turns with every step. Not dread, not hunger, but that sensation of hearing your name spoken by someone you loved in a dream you never had. The clock is warm under your fingers, warmer than the room, warmer than skin, and when you touch its surface, it moves. Not the clock, not the glass, but something behind your eyes. A shifting like time rewriting itself around your thoughts. A hum builds in your ears, and you realize it's not sound but pressure, the weight of unmeasured hours pressing gently into your skull. And you remember every time you've woken up at 3:33 with no alarm, no reason, just the sensation that something had been watching you moments before you opened your eyes. The clock pulses then, a ripple through its face like water disturbed by breath, and inside it you see not your reflection, but moments, flickering scenes, fragments. You see your hand reaching for a doorknob that never turned. You see a mirror covered with a sheet that shifts when no one's there. You see your suitcase in a room filled with snow, melting in reverse. You try to pull your hand away, but the clock holds it, not physically, but insistently, like a forgotten promise tugging at your skin, and a whisper rises from the center of the circle, from the place where the hands should be speaking without language, just rhythm, just memory, just motion. And it tells you something you already know. The hands were never missing. You gave them away. And your mind folds inward then, like a book closing around a page it cannot tear out. And you see the outline of yourself scrawled along the edge of time, the place where a second was skipped, where something should have happened but didn't, where silence pressed in like a thumbprint on wet paint. You look up and the walls are gone, replaced by endless clocks, floor to ceiling, wall to wall, none with hands, all moving. The air is thick with the weight of measured absence, and the tickless clocks beat like hearts, trying not to remember. One of them whispers your name, another one laughs softly, and one, just one, ticks just once, a single beat that breaks the world open for a breathless second, and you see everything, every 3:33 you've ever lived, stacked behind one another like mirrors, like echoes, like apologies. And in the space after the tick, before the next, the floor beneath you gives slightly, like a step has been added to the house without permission. A new hallway opens, narrow and stuttering, and you understand without thinking that time is not forward, time is inward, and the only way out is through the moment you missed, the one still waiting inside the clock's silent center. And as you step toward it, you do not hear a chime, only the quiet breath of something exhaling behind you, the kind of breath a room takes when the last hand falls away, and only the watcher remains. Shh. It's on the dresser again, though the dresser wasn't here a moment ago. A snow globe, small enough to fit in your palm, heavy enough to carry a world, and when you lift it, you feel the weight of a memory that doesn't belong to just one version of you, but to all of them, layered like frost on old windows, clear only when you forget to look directly. The glass is cool, but not cold, pulsing faintly with the kind of warmth that doesn't come from heat, but from the act of being held too long. And inside, a house. One you recognize in the way you recognize the rhythm of your own name spoken in someone else's voice. A cabin with one window aglow, and a roof sagging gently beneath an endless fall of upward snow. Soft flakes rising like breath returned to sky. Gentle and refusing gravity, as if the storm has been rewound and made to weep backward through time. You tilt the globe, slowly, reverently, and the world inside tilts with you, the house remaining still while everything else stirs around it. And for a breathless moment you feel it. Not the weight of the object in your hand, but the pull of being watched from within it. A sense that the figure inside the house, though you cannot see them clearly, has turned toward you, has stepped forward, has placed one unseen palm against the tiny window in perfect mirror to your own hand, trembling slightly from the other side of the glass. And you remember, then, not clearly, but with feeling, the moment you said goodbye, not with words, but with absence, the first leaving, the one that fractured the hallway behind you and stitched fog into the doorframe before you ever stepped through it. The snow continues to rise, slow and impossible, turning gently in defiance of the world's rules. And the globe grows heavier, almost imperceptibly, like each goodbye adds to its gravity, like each parting reshapes the curve of its glass until the object no longer holds a scene, but a sorrow. You try to set it down, but your hand won't let go. Not from fear, not from confusion, but because something in you wants to stay inside that moment, to stand forever in the pause before the leaving. And time feels soft, and regret hasn't chosen its name yet. And in that pause, you hear a soft scratching, not loud, not aggressive, the gentle sound of someone writing from inside the snow, carving words into a frost-laced window pane with the tip of a finger that has done this before. The letters appear in mirrored script. Wasn't this the place where it started last time? Or next time? And suddenly the room around you breathes differently. The light thickens, and the snow globe begins to hum. Not musically, but like a small engine of remembrance grinding back to life. You look closer, and the cabin inside is no longer still. The door is ajar, the window flickering with movement. A shadow passing slowly from left to right, and then vanishing as if swallowed by another room behind the one you can see. And with each breath, you feel yourself pulling inward, being drawn into the curve of the glass. Your body beginning to reflect not in the mirror, but in the surface of the globe, distorted and distant, like something remembered rather than seen. The dresser beneath it dissolves softly, the room folding in around the object, until all that remains is you, standing in a field of silent snow, with no sky above, only a slow swirl of memory drifting upward around you, and the house far off, waiting with its door still open. You blink, and the snow pauses in mid-air. You whisper a name you didn't know you remembered, and the door inside the globe begins to close, slowly, slowly, as if giving you a moment to say goodbye, one more time, or maybe for the first. You are moving again, but you don't recall the choice to begin, only the gentle forward tug of something beneath thought, beneath will, like your body is tracing a path it has walked before in a dream that didn't belong to you, or perhaps belonged to the version of you that only wakes when mirrors are covered and clocks forget how to tick. The fog is thinner here, but not clearer. It stretches low and wide like breath held just above the floor, disturbed only by the shape of your ankles passing through. The air quiet except for the low murmur of your footsteps against tile that's too cold for a hallway, too smooth for a road, the kind of surface found in institutions or memories. And around you, the walls shift subtly as you move, the edges of doors warping, hinges bending gently inward, as if each room you pass is exhaling a piece of itself and tucking it into the folds of your coat. The coat you don't remember putting on, but that smells faintly of mothballs and longing. Your flashlight is in your hand again, though you never retrieved it, and it isn't casting light so much as revealing texture, glints of dust in the shape of footsteps that do not match your pace, outlines of hands against walls that linger just too long, and further ahead, flickering in and out like a signal struggling to stay alive, the silhouette of a house, not a full house, but the echo of one, roof and windows and steps suspended in mist, stitched from memory and mistaken for shelter. You know it's not yours, not really, but your bones lean toward it anyway. The way sleepwalkers drift toward lights they don't remember leaving on. And as you near the porch, the boards groan before your weight touches them, as if they remember you, as if they missed you, or something wearing your shape. You step inside without knocking, because there is no door, only a frame, and the absence of refusal. And inside, furniture shrouded in sheets, photographs with faces rubbed away, clocks all stopped at 3:33. Their silence not quiet, but full of held breath. There's a coat on the hook identical to yours, damp at the sleeves. There's a cup of tea steaming faintly on a table with no dust. There's a mirror in the hallway cracked from corner to corner in a shape that resembles a road map folded too many times and thrown away. And in the far room, past wallpaper that peels into the shape of names you almost recall, you see the figure, standing in the center, not facing you, but angled like memory, like someone trying to remember what forgetting felt like. They turn as you enter, and their face is yours, not today's, not yesterday's, but the one you wore in that dream where your voice didn't work, and the radio was bleeding static, and the walls were covered in photographs of people you couldn't name. They do not move, but their eyes follow you slowly, like a hand sliding across the back of your thoughts, and behind them, in the corner, sits your suitcase, unopened, exactly where you left it, even though you've never been here before. The floor creaks beneath your breath, the ceiling lowers slightly as if bowing, and the house sighs around you, not in welcome, not in sorrow, but in recognition, because sleepwalkers don't come home. They come back to the places that remember them, even when they choose the wrong house, even when the house is only pretending. And as you step closer to the mirror, your reflection flickers for a moment, not as you, but as the person whose bed you've been borrowing in dreams. And somewhere in another room, a clock tries to start, fails, and tries again, slow, slower, slower still. The house exhales behind you and you're outside again, though the moment of crossing the threshold has vanished from your memory like heat from a forgotten cup. And all that remains is the sensation of cold wrapping itself around your legs, like the hands of someone grateful. You stayed just long enough to be remembered. The fog rises waist high now, denser than before, textured like wool soaked in sound, and with each step you take it responds, not by parting, but by folding, shaping itself gently around your movements, as if it has learned the rhythm of your gait, the hesitation in your left heel, the slight favouring of your right side from an old injury that no longer aches in your body but still echoes in your sleep. It brushes your thighs like velvet and curls around your knees in spiral patterns that feel purposeful. like handwriting repeating a name until the paper dissolves. And as you move forward, you begin to notice that you're not leading the way. The fog is. It thickens to discourage you from paths not meant for you, and thins just enough to guide you toward the place it wants you to see, wants you to return to, wants you to remember. And with a sick warmth you realize the fog is not weather, not atmosphere, but memory, risen from the ground and turned into air, suspended regret shaped by breath and time and the footprints of those who wandered this road before you. You stop for a moment and the fog halts too, pausing in place, the curls of it shivering faintly in anticipation, waiting for the next step it already knows you'll take. And you do. And it reacts. And you know now it's been doing this since the beginning, adjusting to you, learning you, walking just slightly ahead and always slightly behind, like a mirror made of mist and patience. The flashlight in your hand flickers, though you haven't turned it on, emitting a dim pulse that seems to shiver the fog into brief transparency. And in those stuttering moments, you catch glimpses, not of landscape, not of path, but of yourself. Echoes of you walking this same way in other clothes, other shoes, barefoot once, bleeding another time, and always with the same look in your eyes. The look of someone trying to remember what they're trying to forget. You step forward again, and the fog draws tighter. Not suffocating, but intimate, like a blanket pulled gently over your head by someone whose face you only see in dreams, and it smells of things you haven't thought about in years. Damp wool, warm rain on asphalt, the burnt sugar scent of a forgotten coat pocket. Somewhere to your left, a shape moves in tandem with you, never quite close enough to see clearly, never far enough to ignore. And though you try not to turn your head, you know that if you do, it won't be gone. It will stop, perfectly still, as if it never moved, as if it never stopped. And when you finally pause to catch your breath, the fog ripples gently and reveals something placed in the middle of the road. A mirror, freestanding, too tall, too thin, its surface fogged but humming, faintly vibrating in sync with your pulse. And before you can stop yourself, your hand lifts, not to touch it, but to wave. A reflex you don't understand until you see the figure in the mirror do the same. And for a moment, it doesn't look like you. Not fully. The gesture is off, reversed in spirit more than image, and you feel something pull slightly behind your sternum. A tug not of pain, but of realignment, like your bones remembering a shape you haven't worn in a long time. You blink, and the mirror is gone, and the fog resumes its learning, reshaping itself around your next step, and your next, and your next. And somewhere in the distance ahead, too far to see but close enough to taste, something waits, not moving, not watching, just listening to the rhythm of your footsteps, which it now knows by heart. Mark, you feel it before you know it, a small shift, subtle and invisible, like the air has exhaled behind your neck and forgotten to take its breath back, and somewhere just outside your vision, to the left, no lower, no closer, something rearranges itself with the slow confidence of a thing long practiced in the art of not being caught. Your body halts, not from fear, but from instinct. The way prey freezes in the shadow of a sound it's heard before but never survived. And you understand in that stillness that you are not alone. You never were. Not since the mirrors began watching. Not since the suitcase knew your hands. Not since the clock beat once and whispered you back into motion. And when you turn, slowly, slowly, flashlight shaking now though your grip is tight. The path behind you looks unchanged, but the details blur. The fog is a little thicker. The tree that leaned left now leans right. The footprints you left behind don't match the size of your shoes. And you hear it then, quiet, rhythmic, like breath pressed into cloth. The subtle scrape of something adjusting itself just after your eyes move past it. Not hostile, not hurried, but deliberate. You test it. Glance left and feel the pressure shift to your right. Look down and feel the breath of motion brush the top of your head like a thought trying to leave your skull, without permission. You speak aloud just to mark your place, your voice thin and absurd in the open space. I know you're there. And the wind answers with silence so immediate it feels violent, like sound has been dragged away before it could echo. Something brushes your coat then, barely touching, just enough to feel like a warning or a welcome, and when you whirl around, there is nothing there except a bench that wasn't there before. Crooked and damp, its legs sinking slightly into soft mud, and on it your suitcase, open, contents rearranged. Not stolen, not added, just wrong. A shirt now neatly folded that had been crumpled, a photo turned face down, the snow globe missing entirely. And next to it, perched upright, a mirror no bigger than a postcard, standing on its own without frame or support. Its surface fogged and vibrating faintly with each breath you take. You do not look into it, not directly, but you feel its gaze on the corners of your eyes, the kind of attention that makes the hair behind your ears rise, that stirs old guilt from places you didn't know it hid. And behind you, something moves again, just beyond reach, a sound like dry paper dragging across wood. And you know, if you turned fast enough, just once, you'd see it. But you also know that once seen, it does not return to stillness. It begins. And so you do not turn, you walk. Slowly, deliberately, counting your steps beneath your breath, like a child afraid to misstep in a game they don't remember agreeing to play. And you pass trees that weren't trees a moment ago. Structures leaning at impossible angles, pulsing slightly, adjusting in your periphery like theatre props responding to a script they can't quite read. And you speak again, more softly now, just to prove you are real. I see you when I don't look. And the fog behind you exhales with a slow shudder, as if amused. And in that moment, you understand the rules. They move when you look away. They follow only when you forget. And they arrange the world behind your back, so that when you turn, you are always just slightly misplaced, just slightly wrong, just slightly watched. You resist the urge to check your shadow, to turn and count how many legs it has today. Instead, you walk, not faster, not slower, but with the rhythm of someone being hunted by something polite. And far ahead, you see the outline of a road, familiar, curved, sloping upward like a question left unanswered too long, and beside it, flickering softly, a street lamp humming with the static of the radio you buried in a dream. And beneath that lamp, a bench, another one, waiting, turned away from you, occupied by something that does not turn to look, not yet, not until you do. It's lying on the ground, like it fell gently from a pocket you don't remember checking, curled slightly at the corners, like it's been handled too many times by hands not quite your own. And when you stoop to lift it, the paper is soft but not fragile, warm from a memory that isn't recent but insists on resurfacing. A photo, square and blurred, its image faded in the center as though the moment it tried to capture was already slipping away before the shutter could seal it in place. You hold it closer, and the grain comes alive. Not dots, not pixels, but something deeper, shifting, breathing just beneath the surface of the emulsion, like time never finished developing the truth. There's a room in the photo, you think, though the angles are wrong. Walls folding too sharply, shadows overlapping where light couldn't possibly reach. And there, just off-center, a figure. You. Not looking at the camera, but towards something out of frame. One arm raised as if to wave or warn or shield, and your eyes, though small and lost in the blur, seem wide open. Too open. The way eyes look when caught in a moment just after recognition, just before it's too late. You blink, and when your eyes reopen, the figure has moved. Not drastically, but subtly. The arm now lowered, the head tilted slightly toward the viewer. Your viewer. And the background has sharpened, revealing what you didn't want to see. The mirror. It wasn't there before, you're sure of it. But now it stands tall and narrow behind your past self, catching only a sliver of reflection that doesn't match the body before it. Something taller, darker, standing too close, too still, too wrong. You flip the photo over, seeking an explanation, a note, a date, and find only one sentence scrawled in ink that hasn't fully dried. You blinked too late. And you feel it then, not fear, not yet, but the slow ache of inevitability pressing into your ribs, like an old bruise returning with the weather. You try to set the photo down, but your fingers won't release it. Your hand stiff and pale, as though the image has begun feeding off the warmth of your touch. And somewhere nearby, soft as breath through teeth, you hear a shutter click. Not from a camera, but from something mimicking one. Something that learned the sound because it knew you'd recognize it. The flashlight flickers once, just enough to reveal that your shadow is no longer alone, that another outline stands beside it now. Taller, yes, always taller, and when you spin to face it, there's nothing but fog and the soft settling of dust. The kind that rises only after movement stops. You look at the photo again, and the figure has turned. Fully now. Face to camera, mouth open, but not speaking, not screaming. Just shaped into something like a warning, or a word forgotten halfway through. Your face, but not quite. A version of you that never blinked at all. You tear your eyes away, but the image lingers, stamped onto the dark behind your eyelids, and when you try to walk, the world pulls slightly to the left, as though the photograph has realigned your path. Ahead, a light flickers in rhythm with your heartbeat, and beside it, a postbox leans open. Inside it, a stack of identical photos. All blank, except the one on top, which shows you now holding this very photo in this very moment, just as you are. And behind you in the photo, a figure, blurry, too close, too still, waiting for the exact second you look away. You think you are still dreaming because everything has the softness of memory and the cruelty of repetition. But the truth hums underneath your skin like static caught between fingers. You are not asleep. Not anymore. Because sleep is a place and places can be left. And you left it. Or it left you, slowly. like a tide pulling back through sheets soaked in breath, through windows that never quite closed. The air tastes too awake now, too sharp around the edges, and your body feels heavy in the way it does when the dream forgets to hold you gently. You walk, but the ground doesn't meet you where you expect. Each step slightly delayed, slightly louder than it should be, as though sound has to remember how to follow you, and above you the sky yawns wider than before. Not dark, not bright, but blank. A canvas wiped clean mid-sentence, mid-season, mid-story. The fog has thinned into ribbons now, winding between bare trees that do not grow but watch, thin-barked and bone-still, their branches like fingers curled around something invisible. Your flashlight hums with a weak pulse, and when you lift it, the beam doesn't reveal distance but rewinds it, showing glimpses of places you've already passed. Your own footprints vanishing under light, moments folding inward like petals too afraid to bloom in full dark. The road bends ahead and you follow it, not because you trust it, but because you don't trust the stillness behind you, the kind that waits with breath held too long, with silence shaped like questions you've asked in your sleep, but never dared repeat aloud. And somewhere in the periphery, you see movement, not fast, not direct, just something shifting when your eyes relax, the same moment you begin to forget what you were trying to remember. It feels like someone else is here now, not beside you, but within you, close enough to influence which way you lean when you walk, which shoulder you drop first, whose breath you match without knowing. A dream self, half discarded, now catching up. And as the road flattens, you come upon a small structure, not a house, not a shed, something older, something meant to be forgotten, with walls that pulse slightly when you approach, as if aware. Inside, the floor is covered in mattresses, dozens, stacked and staggered and too still, each with an indentation in the center, like someone just left or never woke. Above them, hundreds of clocks dangle from wires, all broken, all pointing to nothing, and none ticking. You feel your eyes grow heavy, but not from exhaustion, from recognition. Your body remembers this place, even if you do not. This is where the dream ended. This is where sleep stopped being safe. You sit on the edge of the nearest bed and find a pillow still warm, shaped like the curve of your own head, and beside it, a small radio, turned on but silent, as if it has run out of time to speak. Your name is carved faintly into the headboard in a language only dreams use, lines that bend and fold when you look at them directly, spelling something more emotional than spoken, more sensation than thought. You close your eyes, just for a moment, and feel the room press against you gently, not trapping you, just holding you, like it did the last time, or the next. And as your mind begins to drift again, not into sleep, but away from it, a voice rises from somewhere you left behind. Wake up. We haven't even reached the mirror yet. And you know it's true, because sleep is a place, and it's already behind you, and you are still walking forward, barefoot now, towards something that doesn't dream at all. You step through a doorway without a door, frame splintered at the corners like it has been opened too many times by people who never found what they came for. And inside the house, the air folds differently, thicker near the ceiling, thinner near the floor, like the weight of memory pulls downward and drags your breath with it. There are rooms, many rooms, stacked without order, opening into each other in impossible sequences. A hallway leads to a kitchen that spills into an attic that falls directly into a stairwell with no visible source. And each space smells slightly of you, but not now you. Versions of you, past you, dream you, left behind you, overlapping in the wallpaper like mildew in the shape of old gestures. The walls are warm, but not from heat. They hold breath, not yours, someone else's, recent and rhythmic, the kind of breath that stops when you listen too closely. And as you drift forward, you understand that this house doesn't begin anywhere. There's no foyer, no front room, no starting point to trace. Just entry, eternal and recursive. The architecture of a place that was never built, only remembered backward. Each doorway you pass changes slightly after you step through it, growing narrower or tilting upward, and if you turn to look back, which you do once, the room you were in is not the one you left. A chair sits where you don't remember it being. A mirror has replaced a window. A photo on the wall is now blurred where it was once blank. And always, at the corner of your eye, the impression of movement just one step ahead of you, like a memory on the verge of becoming real. A ticking begins, not from a clock, but from beneath the floorboards, regular and unrelenting, not quite mechanical, like fingernails tapping rhythmically on hollow wood. And the sound follows you, or perhaps leads you, into a parlour where the ceiling hangs lower than it should, held up by mirrors propped like beams, each one cracked in a different direction, none showing your reflection fully, just glimpses. An arm, a mouth, eyes that don't belong to the face you thought you had. And in the centre of the room, an empty crib sways gently, not rocked by wind or hand, but by something slower. Gravity, dream gravity, memory gravity, the soft push of repetition against reality. You kneel beside it without meaning to, hand drifting toward the mattress that isn't cloth but folded paper, newspaper clippings with dates smudged out and headlines that read like questions. They left before they arrived. Echo found alone in vacant home. House built from mist and shadow. Identified. And beneath the crib, something glints. The lens of an old camera, aimed upward, fixed on the ceiling where names are written in looping cursive, hundreds of them, all scratched out except for one. Yours. And it's not written. It's stitched, looped in fine black thread into plaster that hums slightly when you say it aloud. The ticking has stopped, replaced now by a slow, dragging sound. Not behind you, not ahead, but below, beneath the rooms, beneath the foundation, beneath memory, and the house breathes with it. Walls expanding slightly as if the structure has inhaled your presence and decided not yet to exhale. You walk on, passing through rooms where curtains breathe and light bends, where floors become ceilings and doors open onto staircases that ascend and descend at the same time, until finally you arrive in a hallway lined with mirrors on one side and windows on the other. And the windows show nothing but black glass, and the mirrors show rooms you haven't reached yet. And at the end of the hall is another doorway, and beyond that doorway, another house, identical, breathing, waiting. And as you cross the threshold again, the voice in the walls exhales softly, just loud enough to reach your inner ear. Welcome to the house, with no first room. And this time, you do not wonder if you've been here before. You wonder how long you've stayed. It's in your hand again, heavier than before. Not because the flashlight itself has changed, but because something inside it has remembered too much. The weight of all the things you chose not to recall now coiled like breathless shadow in its beam. And when you click it on, not by choice, but as if your thumb obeys a memory instead of a command, the light that spills forth is wrong in the way deja vu is. Wrong, familiar but delayed, illuminating not what is ahead, but what you've hidden, what you dropped behind you like breadcrumbs in a forest that grew new trees the moment your back turned. The beam stutters as if alive, pulsing slightly, pointing where you didn't aim it, to the seams of the house that you didn't see before. Gaps in the corners, hairline fractures in the wood, scratches on the wallpaper that form patterns only if you refuse to look directly. The flashlight searching like a finger tracing old scars, remembering in light what your mind cannot hold. You sweep it left and a door appears that wasn't there, crooked, humming softly, as if it had been waiting for your attention to become permission. The handle is warm, not like metal, but like skin. And when you touch it, the flashlight flickers again and shows you, for just a second, the outline of a room that should not fit within the space. Too wide, too high, filled with furniture draped in heavy cloth like sleeping bodies lined for ceremony, and one of them shifts slightly at the edge of the light. You swing the beam toward it, but the movement has already stopped, leaving behind only the impression of breath just exhaled. You try to call out, but your throat stays closed. Not frozen, just unwilling, like the act of speaking would solidify the moment and give it shape. And you don't want this to have shape. Not yet. Not if it means it becomes real. The flashlight warms in your grip, the heat spreading up your arm like a memory returning through blood. And suddenly, the room isn't the one in front of you, but the one from before. The hotel room, the basement, the hallway lined with suitcases and clocks, all the places where this light had once been held by you, or someone like you, or the shadow left behind after you blinked too long. You shine it down and the floor responds. Not reflecting, but absorbing. The beam sinking through the wood like light into water, revealing beneath it a staircase carved in mirror, winding endlessly down into reflection, into versions of this house stacked upside down, sideways, backward, each one flickering as the flashlight pulses like a heartbeat, remembering too many names. And then, just for a breath, the light lands on a photograph, lying face up on the dresser, framed but cracked, and in it, you, holding this flashlight in this room. Right now, your mouth half open in an expression you haven't made yet. And behind you, in the image, a figure leaning gently from the wall, face obscured by the glare of the light, but body impossibly familiar. You turn slowly, but the wall is empty, the mirror is gone, and your own reflection watches you now from inside the flashlight beam, delayed by half a second, slightly out of step. And it speaks, not with sound, but with shadow, a flicker against the far wall that spells out a word in stretching darkness. Remember. And as the flashlight dims, you feel its heat fade into your palm, leaving behind only dust and the faint smell of burnt paper. And for the first time you understand. The light does not reveal, it resurrects. And you were never meant to see what you had forgotten, only to feel the weight of having lost it. Again, and again, and again. You touch the wall, without meaning to. Just the fingertips grazing plaster that hums faintly with something like breath held too long inside a throat not meant to speak. And the wall gives, barely. Not soft, not hollow, but yielding in the way memory yields when you press it hard enough. And beneath your hand the surface begins to shimmer. Not wet, not solid, something between. And you realize it's a mirror, not framed, not placed, but grown into the architecture like a cyst of reflection buried just beneath the skin of the house. The flashlight, now silent in your other hand, casts no beam but still pulses faintly, as if uncertain whether to remember or forget. And the mirror, the not mirror, the closed window, responds not to light but to presence, growing clearer as you breathe closer, the surface showing not your face but a version of the hallway behind you that doesn't quite match, the angles slightly wrong, the shadows too long, too still. And in the corner of the reflection, barely visible, something else, not moving, not watching, just waiting. You blink and the shape vanishes, but not the feeling, the prickle along your shoulders, the itch behind your jaw, the weight behind your eyes. And for a moment you are certain that your reflection is standing just a few seconds behind you, delayed like an echo through water, watching your back and waiting for you to move so it can begin again. You lean closer and see not yourself, but a window, tall and narrow, embedded in the reflection but not in the room. A window that opens onto another room entirely, one filled with snow that falls upward, and furniture that weeps softly into its own cushions. And someone stands there too, behind the glass, behind the reflection, pressing their palm against it as if to say, "It's not locked from your side." Your own hand raises in answer, without your permission, meeting the mirror's surface with a pressure that feels more like memory than motion. And the cold that greets your skin isn't chill, but familiarity. The way an old photograph feels cooler than paper should. The way a forgotten object seems to exhale your name before you touch it. The mirror cloud thickens, fog spiraling inward, not from your breath, but from inside the glass, from the other side. And you see now that it was never a surface. It was a veil. A pane not made to reflect, but to hold something in, or something out, or both. And it vibrates slightly, as if a second world is pressing gently from the far side. And in that vibration you begin to see shapes, not people, but postures, outlines of rooms you've never entered, but know in your teeth. The hallway from the hotel where the walls were too soft. The corner of a room lit only by a lamp whose cord was cut. The silhouette of a staircase that spiraled downward longer than gravity should allow. And all of it layered behind this mirror, this closed window, trembling slightly with the effort of being seen. You pull back, instinctively, and the reflection shifts, just a flicker. But in that flicker you catch your own face, or what your face might become. Older, paler, eyes wide and glistening with the knowledge of something still just out of reach. And the mouth, it's moving, saying something silently, over and over, not quite mouthing words, but shaping intention. And your heart stops just long enough to hear it. Open it. And now the mirror feels warmer, not because it wants to be, but because it remembers being touched, opened, crossed through by someone who looked too long at the reflection. and mistook it for an invitation. And behind you, you hear a sound. Not footsteps, but the scraping of something soft against glass. The kind of sound a curtain makes when pulled closed too late. You turn, but the room remains still, unchanged, except the door you entered through is gone, replaced by another mirror, identical in shape, but darker. And you know, absolutely know, that these are not mirrors. They are closed windows. And something on the other side is just now realizing you figured that out. And it is no longer still. But you hear it again before you see it, that thin, threadbare voice curling through the seams of the walls like smoke through old fabric. The kind of sound that doesn't arrive so much as surface, rising out of silence the way a bruise blooms through skin long after the damage has passed. And this time, it's not coming from around you. It's coming from within you, not spoken, not remembered, just continuing, as though it never stopped playing, only dipped below the threshold of awareness until now. A radio, crackling faintly, tuned to a frequency your bones recognize more than your ears, and you know immediately, beyond logic, beyond doubt, it's the same broadcast, the one you left behind in the room you never exited, in the life you almost stayed in, the one with warm lights and no mirrors, the one with the door you didn't open, the version of your life that kept going after you walked away. The sound is faint but persistent, a soft static breath layered with voices just low enough to be understood without words. And when you follow it, not with your body but with that inner lean, that dream tilt that shifts the whole house a few degrees toward meaning, you find yourself standing at the top of a staircase you don't remember climbing, looking down into a room lit by nothing but that sound. A blue-grey hum washing over everything like light filtered through old water. The radio sits on a table with a broken leg, balanced by a stack of folded shirts that all seem to be yours. Each one slightly different in tone, in era, in texture, like they belong to versions of you that made different choices, went to different houses, turned away from different mirrors. You step forward and the stairs do not creak. They breathe, slow and warm, exhaling with each downward movement as if the house is grateful for your return. And when you reach the bottom, the sound sharpens, not louder, just clearer, like it's no longer trying to hide. And the voice on the radio, or beneath the radio or behind it, says your name once, gently, the way someone calls out across sleep when they think you've gone too far. And you sit, without meaning to, on a chair that sighs under your weight, and you realize you've sat here before, in another life, in another room, listening to the same broadcast without knowing what it was, thinking it was just weather, just noise, just another haunting of a frequency no one claimed. But now you know better. Now you know this is the room that remembers you. This is the room that stayed where you left it, frozen not in time but in attention, replaying the same gentle loop of your breathing, your footsteps, your voice saying, "I'll be right back." And beside the radio, you find a page, yellowed and curled, a note you wrote but never finished, signed only with your initials, and written in looping half-faded script. Leave the static on. And underneath that, in different handwriting, it finds you easier that way. You look up and the room shifts, not violently, not suddenly, just precisely, like a film reel skipping back a few frames. And now there are two radios, both playing the same thing but out of sync, then three, then 4, each one crackling with a slightly different version of the moment, layering you inside a chamber of your own echoes, your own almost decisions, and the sound becomes a shape, becomes a pressure, becomes a hand on your shoulder that isn't touching you but still holds you in place. And you realize this was never a broadcast you tuned into. This was one you began. This was your signal, searching through walls and wires for the version of you that forgot to come back. And as you reach forward to turn the dial, to tune it in or out, the radio begins to speak with your voice, not repeating, not mimicking, just continuing the story you left unfinished, in the house you never left, in the life where the mirrors stayed covered, and you whisper back, I hear you. And the static deepens into something that sounds almost like relief. It begins again, not with thunder, not with wind, but with the soft clicking sound of something tapping glass in rhythm, like fingernails or whispers with shape. And when you reach the window, if it is a window, if it is still yours, you see the droplets clinging not to the surface, but hovering just before it, suspended in the thin hush between falling and rising, and in each one, a perfect reflection, not of the world but of a gaze, tiny and unblinking, too many to count, thousands of raindrops shaped like staring, all of them pointed inward, all of them watching not the room, not the house, not even your face, but your decision to look, as if your sight has called them closer. The sky above is not a sky anymore. It is a ceiling of watching water, low and thick and patient. And the rain doesn't fall or rise now. It waits, swirling slowly in soft spirals, as if stirred by your thoughts instead of wind, and you feel it then. A kind of pressure from without, like being observed not by a person but by a pattern. A weather system that has learned the shape of your name. You step back and the window fogs instantly from the outside and across the glass in lines of perfectly spaced droplets. Words begin to write themselves, forming letter by letter like breath pulled from sleep. We remember the version that drowned. And suddenly you feel the cold of water in your lungs, not choking, not panicking, just a weight, a slow familiarity, as if part of you never stopped sinking. And now the rain is here to return the memory, not in punishment, but in precision. You move down the hall, away from the window, but the tapping follows, not louder, not faster, just constant, as though the rain is pacing your movement from above, tracing your path in moisture and gaze. And you know now, without needing to ask, that the rain does not fall randomly here. It watches, it collects, it memorizes. And you pass another room where the ceiling has peeled back and the rain hovers just overhead, drops frozen mid-air, each one holding a scene, a memory suspended, a hand reaching for a light switch, a suitcase left half zipped, a mirror covered too late, and one of them, held directly above the bed, contains you, asleep, facing the wrong direction, something approaching from behind, something too tall, too quiet. You close the door and the sound dulls slightly, but doesn't stop, because rain this alive doesn't need permission. It follows, through walls, through silence, through sleep. And as you descend another hallway, now damp beneath your feet, you see puddles forming in symmetrical shapes, not random, eyes, always eyes outlined in dark water, wide and reflective. And the further you walk, the more they multiply. like the house itself is sweating you out through its pores. At the end of the corridor is a mirror, tall, silvering at the edges, and when you reach it, it is wet, but not with condensation, with tears, not yours, but the mirror's, or what stands inside it. And through the fog you see yourself, but soaked, water dripping from hair that hasn't been wet, clothing darkened in patterns that match the rain outside. And as you stare, the version of you in the glass raises a hand to the surface, its palm wet and trembling, and writes one word in slow circles across the glass. Listen. And when it finishes, the lights flicker, and outside the window the rain begins again, this time falling, hard, but wrong, because every drop hits the glass not with a splash, but with a blink, hundreds of eyes closing, softly, like they've seen enough, for now. As you reach them without realizing, your hand brushing a wooden banister that curves like a ribbon grown from the wall itself, smooth and pulsing faintly beneath your fingers like it remembers being touched before. And when you glance down, not because you want to, but because you feel watched from below, the staircase yawns open, long and coiling, vanishing into a darkness that isn't absence but accumulation, a thickening of forgotten motion, the heavy silence of too many steps taken by too many versions of you that never found the bottom. And as you place your foot on the first stair, the wood hums beneath your weight, a low thrum not of protest but of preparation, like something ancient has noticed the return of a pattern and begun to wake in its slow, soundless way. Each step is softer than it should be, not creaking but breathing, a slow exhale as you descend into lightless depth, and the walls around you stretch down without closing, always just a little too far away to touch, always just close enough to feel, something pressing against them from the other side, something pacing your descent, not in perfect sync, but close enough to make you adjust your breath without meaning to. There are no landings, no turns, no breaks in the rhythm of the stairs, only the steady downward pull, the way gravity dreams of taking you back to the center of everything you buried. And you know, absolutely, that this staircase does not go to a floor, does not end in a room, does not open into a cellar or a basement or a forgotten corridor. It leads inward. It leads down through you, through all the rooms you shut behind your ribs, all the locked doors in your spine, all the quiet mirrors you swallowed rather than face. And the further you descend, the heavier you become, not with dread, but with density, as if memory is pressing itself into your bones with every step, layering the old weight back onto you like coats put on in dreams. And in the dark, there is no colour, no shadow, just texture, the feel of breath around corners, the flutter of air that brushes your cheek in the shape of fingers, the occasional tap behind you that matches your pace, almost exactly, almost, but not quite. You shine the flashlight down and the beam curves with the spiral, revealing nothing but more stairs, always more stairs, the walls occasionally marked with symbols scratched shallow into the surface, loops, circles, clocks with no hands, names spelled backwards, and one small line that simply reads, "Don't stop here." You try to count the steps, but numbers won't stick. Your mouth forms them, but your mind slides past them, as though this staircase exists outside the logic of sequence, each stair identical but not the same, each one carrying you closer to something that doesn't want to be named. You pass a mirror leaned against the wall, cracked and blind, but it breathes mist as you pass, a sigh of warmth in the cold. And for just a second, your reflection flickers, not walking, but standing still, watching you descend. You take another step and the air changes subtly, the sound thinning into a distant hum, and in it, low, stretched, almost melodic, the sound of your own voice, echoing upward from below, caught in some slow motion loop, repeating a single word you don't remember saying. Again, again, again. And your legs keep moving, not from will, but from the momentum of regret, the kind that gains weight as it spirals. And now you begin to feel it, the presence that walks with you, no longer hidden, just patient, pacing one step behind, one breath off. You stop. It stops. And the sound of its breath does not. And when you whisper softly into the black beneath you, how much further is left? The staircase answers not with words, but with one more stare, and another, and another, and another. You reach the bottom not with relief, but with confusion, because there is no threshold, no landing, no shift in air pressure or sound to signal arrival. Only the realization that your feet no longer move downward, that the pull of the steps has quieted, replaced by a stillness that hums inside your chest like something forgotten trying to rise through your lungs. The room is low-ceilinged and wide, walls lost in soft shadow, the kind of dark that doesn't hide things but dulls them into suggestion. A shape here, a line there, the outline of furniture draped in silence. And at the centre, impossibly ordinary, impossibly exact, is a bed, made neatly, corners tucked tight, pillow plumped, the blanket pulled smooth, like it has never been slept in or was just remade by unseen hands that move only when your back is turned. And even before you approach, even before your breath changes, you know this bed is yours. Not from ownership, but from association. The way your bones hum when they recognize the outline of rest, the shape of surrender. But the closer you get, the more wrong it feels. Not threatening, not hostile, just unfamiliar in all the familiar ways. Like seeing your handwriting on a note you don't remember leaving. Like hearing your name spoken in a voice you don't quite trust. You sit anyway, because not sitting would require explanation, and you are too tired now to argue with the weight gathering behind your eyes, the fog slipping into the back of your mind, the softness under your thighs that begins to mimic warmth. You lie back slowly, and the bed accepts you not with comfort but with certainty, like a puzzle piece fitting into the space it was carved to occupy, like it always knew you'd return. The pillow smells faintly of static, of mirrors left face down, of an old suitcase with cracked leather and a snow globe tucked in the side pocket. And when you close your eyes, the mattress pulses once, just beneath your shoulder blades, as if checking to see if you're really here this time. But sleep does not come. Not fully, only the illusion of it. Your breath deepens, your limbs sink, but something inside you stays sharp, untouched by dream, held aloft in that too quiet tension that comes from lying in a bed you didn't choose, in a room that no longer changes when you blink. And that's when you notice it, the sound of breath, slow and soft and steady, not yours, not the bed's, but beneath you, as if something is sleeping under the mattress, or within it, or wearing it like skin. And the longer you lie there, the clearer it becomes. A second rhythm of breath that rises when yours falls, that waits for your stillness to exhale. You turn your head slightly and see at the edge of your vision a mirror on the ceiling, faint and fogged, angled just so, and in it, not your face, not exactly, but the shape of your body lying still, and above it, a second shadow, draped over you like a blanket made of absence, unmoving, but not at rest. You blink, and the mirror ripples, as if struck by thought, and your reflection's mouth opens just slightly, not to speak, but to breathe, and the shadow exhales with it, perfectly in sync, perfectly wrong. You sit up fast, heart lurching, but the bed does not protest. It adjusts, the way old things do when they've waited too long to hold something again. And you understand, at last, that this bed is not where you sleep. It is where you are kept, when sleep is not allowed, when dreaming is too dangerous, when the house needs somewhere to store the shape of you while it moves your story somewhere else. And across the room, on the far wall, you see another bed, identical, with someone lying in it, someone who moves when you do, someone you almost recognize, until they open their eyes before you do. You're standing now, though. You don't remember rising, your legs carrying you forward in that dream walkway where motion doesn't begin with decision, but with momentum, as if the air behind you has grown heavier and is gently ushering you toward whatever knows your name from the other side of glass. The second bed fades behind you, not in distance, but in relevance, dissolving like the memory of a voice you thought you loved, in a room that doesn't wait when you leave. And there it is again, ahead now, not centered, not obvious, but there. The mirror, tall, narrow, unframed, its edges fraying like paper, soaked too long in old breath, and already you feel that tightness in your ribs, that pulse behind your ears, that prickle that arrives when something is looking at you from a place no eyes should live. You approach slowly, not because of fear, that would be easy, but because of recognition, because something in you remembers this mirror, not from here, not from this house or that hallway or this dream, but from a place that came before all of them, the place beneath places, the room beneath thought, where mirrors are born and broken before ever being hung. And you know, absolutely, that this mirror didn't start here. It came here, brought or dragged or summoned by someone who needed to see a version of themselves that no other surface would dare reflect. The glass is warped in a way that isn't damage but design, the kind of curve that folds light around guilt, that distorts just enough to make the reflection hesitate. And when you look into it, it does not show the room behind you. It shows a hallway, not this one, but one lined with red carpet and ticking clocks. A hallway you passed through 3 lifetimes ago, or 3 nights from now, and standing in the center of it, you, holding a flashlight that flickers in rhythm with a pulse you can't feel anymore, looking back at the mirror that isn't here yet. You reach out and your hand meets not cold but warmth, not resistance but skin. The mirror does not reflect, it receives, it breathes, and when your fingers touch it, you feel them touch something else in return, something equally curious, equally cautious. And just beneath the shimmer, shapes move, not behind the glass, but within it, embedded like memories, fossilized in silver, like gestures caught in a second that never ended. One shape turns as you watch, not quickly, just enough to suggest it knows you're watching now. And for a moment, your own reflection steps back, revealing the presence behind it, tall, faceless, still. The thing that follows you through the glass but never leads, only mimics, only repeats when you think you're alone. And then the mirror begins to whisper, Not aloud, not through sound, but through the weight of your shoulders, the slow curl of your spine, the tug behind your navel that says, this is where you were supposed to look first. But you didn't. And now the mirror has changed because of you. It's longer now, stretching down the wall like a shadow that no longer needs light. And in its reflection, the room is not still, but moving, shifting, rearranging behind you. Doorways sliding, furniture folding inward like stage sets changing behind a closed curtain. You turn to check, but the room is still. Silent, exactly the same, until you look back at the mirror and see the door is open now. Not just cracked, but wide. And in its reflection, someone stands just outside it, watching, waiting, not coming in, not speaking, just holding something. The snow globe. Your snow globe. But smaller now, melted at the edges, with the house inside gone. And when you blink, the door in the mirror slams shut, but the door behind you creaks open, just enough for breath to pass through. And the mirror, this mirror, the one that didn't start here, ripples once more and shows you not yourself, but the exact moment you decided to look away. It's already in your hands, though you don't remember picking it up. A photograph, thick with the weight of fresh chemical scent and something deeper beneath. Not just age, not just time, but presence. Like the image is still forming in your grip. Like your pulse is warming the paper into memory. The frame is blank at first. Faint shapes swimming in the fogged border like shadows waiting to decide what story they belong to. And the more you look, the more you feel it. Not that you're observing the photograph, but that it's observing you, developing you, the way light uncovers a secret in darkness, the way silver burns truth into paper when no one's watching. Slowly, shapes rise, soft at first, silhouettes of a hallway, a mirror, a suitcase propped open like a mouth mid-word, and then the figure appears, not facing the lens, not posing, just standing there, still, half turned, like it was caught listening to something behind the photographer, like it was trying to decide whether to stay or vanish before being seen. And as the photo sharpens, you realise that figure is you, but not the you now, not fully. Something's off. The shoulders too narrow, the coat older than anything you've worn, the head tilted in a way you remember only from childhood photos you never liked seeing. And behind you in the image is a mirror, barely visible, fogged in its centre. And within that fog, a blur, a second shape, a presence that wasn't meant to be captured but stepped into the frame because you weren't looking, because you blinked too slow or stood too long. And the photograph tightens in your grip, curls slightly as if resisting your breath, and in its centre the ink swells and breathes and shifts again. And now you see a door in the background that hadn't been there, opening into a stairwell you don't remember descending yet, one that winds down into darker exposure, the kind that eats light but leaves shape. And now it's you, the current you, standing in that new stairwell, on the page, staring directly back through the paper, mouth slightly open, not in fear, not in warning, but in awe, like you've just seen something impossible, or something that was always going to happen. And when you look away from the photo, the room around you matches it exactly. Same door, same mirror, Same carpet pattern curling toward the threshold of that deepening stare. And you begin to understand that the photo didn't capture you, it predicted you, or perhaps printed you into place, developed you into this moment the way dreams develop into architecture. The air smells like dust and darkroom chemicals, but underneath is something older. The metallic scent of memory, of shutters clacking in rooms with no camera, of moments rehearsed behind glass. And in the far corner of the room, now visible in the photo but not in the real, yet sits a small basin filled with more photographs, faces turned down, corners stained, and above it a clothesline of images pinned by breath alone, fluttering gently without wind. One of them falls as you watch, slow, spiral, landing at your feet with its blank side up, and when you bend to turn it over, your fingers come away wet with ink, not red, not black, something between, and the image shows not a person, but a place, a narrow corridor lined with mirrors, each one fogged in its center, except for one, where an eye watches back through the frame, unblinking, impossibly detailed, too large for the space, too wide to be yours. And the photo burns slightly at the edges, not with flame, but with recognition, like it knows you now, and is ready to show the rest. And the rest is coming. In frames you haven't seen yet, in rooms that don't appear until you're photographed inside them. And already, on the table beside you, the next photo waits. Still damp, still breathing, still remembering how to show you what you were before the shutter fell. The car hums softly beneath your hands, though you never remember getting in. The keys already turned, engine already warm, the wheel already shaped to the memory of your grip. And through the windshield, the fog rolls thick and quiet, like an ocean holding its breath. The kind of silence that feels bigger than air, heavier, older, written across the landscape in looping phrases your headlights can't quite translate. The road stretches forward in a way that isn't straight but inevitable, lined on both sides by trees that do not grow but lean gently inward, their limbs brushing overhead like hands pressed together in hush, forming a tunnel you recognize not from maps or dreams, but from that feeling in your stomach just before a memory returns uninvited. The radio is off, but the static still speaks, whispering faintly through the speakers without permission, not in language, not in song, just presence. A voice you half remember, maybe your own, maybe someone else's, saying nothing but meaning too much, and the headlights cut through the mist like old breath, only illuminating the road 10 feet ahead, which is exactly how far memory ever lets you see. And somewhere behind you, though you haven't checked, the road is folding, disappearing, closing like pages in a book that only wants to be read once. The lines on the asphalt flicker, not painted but stitched, threads holding the road in place across a fabric of forgetting, and you feel the car drifting slightly, even though your hands are steady. A gentle pull, a suggestion from the wheel that you've taken this road before, that your tyres know the way even if your mind refuses to admit it. Signs emerge from the fog in the corner of your vision, not words, just symbols, mirrors, keys, silhouettes of clocks, a single eye that always faces left. And then one sign appears clearly, just long enough to read before vanishing again. You passed it. No arrow, no context, just the ache of knowing you were supposed to turn when everything still felt unfamiliar. Not now, Not this late in the drive, not when the house is already behind you, or ahead of you, or beside you, riding quietly in the passenger seat like a version of yourself who never looked away. And now the road begins to curl, slow at first, then sharper, tighter. The kind of curve that only exists in dreams, where the world folds to let you keep going even though you should have stopped, where forward becomes repetition disguised as progress. And just as you realise the forest on your left looks exactly like the forest that was on your right 3 turns ago, the headlights sweep across a sign nailed into a crooked tree. The road doesn't end. It loops. And the radio crackles louder now, pulsing in time with your heartbeat, and between bursts of static you hear a voice whisper, "Don't look back. It's following this time." Your hands tighten on the wheel, but the car begins to slow without you pressing the brake. The tyres sighing against gravel, pulling toward the shoulder where a suitcase sits upright in the fog, lid gently ajar, steam rising from its centre like breath. And next to it, a mirror, propped on a roadside post, tilted perfectly to reflect only the driver's seat, only your eyes. And when you glance into it, even for just a second, you see your face. Not now, not tired, not blinking, but smiling, wide, too wide. A smile stretched across a face that does not belong to the emotion it performs. And behind that smile, movement. The flicker of something rising over your shoulder in the back seat. And when you whip around, there's nothing. Just the echo of breath, just the sound of your own voice a few seconds late whispering. You drove past the end again. And the road hums louder now, a loop tightening, a circle drawing in, and through the windshield ahead, the same tree leans left, the same sign flickers, the same curve opens its arms, and the car begins to turn. Again, you don't know how long you've been sitting here, hands still on the wheel, engine low and steady, like the breath of something too large to see sleeping just beneath the road. And outside the windshield, the fog has gone still, not fading, not thickening, just pausing. The way time pauses before something tries to remember itself out loud. The dashboard clock glows faint amber, the light too dim to be useful, too stubborn to fade. And there it is again. The time. The same time. The only time. 3:33. No seconds ticking forward. No blink between numbers. Just a stillness that hums with pressure. A moment stretched wide enough to crawl into. And you begin to realise that it's not that time is stuck. It's that this time, this exact shape of now, is where everything returns to when it forgets what came next. The road in front of you breathes softly with fog, the lines shimmering like old tape pulled from a cassette. You shouldn't have played backward, and in your ears or beneath them, the sound of a ticking that doesn't belong to any machine. The kind of ticking you feel in your molars, in the soft place behind your knees, in the back of your throat where words go when they don't survive the dream. The radio flickers on again without being touched, but now it plays not static, not voices, but a heartbeat, slow and echoing and layered beneath it. The sound of a second hand that isn't moving but clicking anyway, as if striking the same second again and again like a match that never lights. You open the car door without knowing why, and the moment your foot touches the gravel, the world around you exhales. The trees sway though there's no wind. The mirror on the roadside cracks just slightly down the centre, and above you, through the tangle of sky, you glimpse something blinking. Not stars, not planes, just lights, arranged in the shape of time, the shape of 333, again, and again, and again, and now you feel it in your chest, that moment thickening, repeating, not circling, but collapsing. Every memory folding itself inward to fit inside this 1 hour, this 1 minute, this one breath. You step forward and the ground beneath you clicks, like the tick of a gear resetting, and all around you the fog begins to spiral in slow motion, dragging echoes from the past into the present, pieces of conversations you never finished, rooms you never left, doors you opened in dreams that led to staircases descending into clocks made of mirrors. The watch on your wrist, the one you don't remember wearing, vibrates once and stops, its face blank, but you hear it ticking anyway, counting not forward but inward, deeper into this moment, into the shape of 333 pressed against the walls of the world like a thumbprint burned into snow. And through the fog, you see the outline of a tower now, tall and thin and familiar, though it shouldn't be. Its surface panelled with clock faces, each frozen at 333, hands warped into spirals, ticking anyway, even without moving. And at the base of the tower, another door, slightly ajar, light spilling out that flickers like candlelight run through static. And above it, etched in faded letters, when you arrive, you begin again. And as you step closer, the ticking intensifies, not louder, but more precise, as if it's counting something you can't name. Not minutes, not choices, but versions. And when you open the door, the sound stops completely, and everything around you inhales, and a clock, just one, deep inside the tower, deep inside the you that got here first, strikes 333, again, again, again. You step through the door and the world narrows, not in size but in possibility, the air thick like sleep that refuses to end, and the moment your foot crosses the threshold, the floor shifts subtly beneath you, not collapsing, not creaking, just tilting slightly, as if the house has grown tired of pretending it has a fixed shape. The room before you isn't large, but it doesn't stop, walls folding inward at unnatural angles, corners nested inside corners, impossible edges stacked like echoes of architecture trying to remember how to be straight. Every time your eyes land on a corner, it seems fine, until you look away and the geometry stutters, expands, reshapes into something that shouldn't exist in 3 dimensions. You walk slowly because fast movement feels like permission here, and you don't want to wake anything that might be resting between the seams. The wallpaper changes with every blink, patterns shifting from floral to static to maps that mark no known places, and somewhere beneath your feet the sound of ticking returns. But wrong now, offbeat, a clock that's lost its rhythm and is pretending not to panic. There are no doors in the room, no windows, but there are openings, strange rectangular cutouts that don't lead anywhere visible, just into more dark, more corner, more folds. And in one of them, far across the room, you see movement, slow, calculated, like someone turning the corner from inside a box too small to fit them. You freeze, and so does it. And then, nothing. The walls leaning closer now, not fast, not direct, just a breath narrower than before. And your shadow stretches in a direction you didn't step, growing sharper, more detailed, until you realize it's not your shadow at all. It's slower than you and smiling slightly. The ceiling begins to slant and your head tilts instinctively, as if your balance has been rewritten. And now, each wall feels taller than it did before, the corners deeper, like someone has pulled the edges apart to make space for something else to fit. You speak, just to test the shape of your voice in this place. And it doesn't echo, it folds, your words disappearing into the closest corner like water poured into a mouth too thirsty to respond. You aim the flashlight at the floor and find that the tiles are not level, not consistent, some rising, others pulsing faintly. A slow rhythmic breathing as though the room itself is waiting for your next move before deciding how to shape itself. And across the far wall, scrawled in a looping hand that wasn't there before, the words, "Don't trust the corners, they listen." And now you feel them listening, every angled edge bending slightly inward like ears made of drywall and patience. And when you step again, your foot lands too close to a wall that wasn't there a moment ago, and the surface is warm, too warm, and soft, like something living beneath the plaster. You back away slowly, only to find that behind you a new corner has formed, sharp and precise, where two walls have joined that weren't supposed to meet. And as you stare, it begins to open, folding inward like a mouth preparing to speak. And from inside, a breath escapes, your breath, but from earlier, from the first time you saw the suitcase move. The air turns colder now, not evenly, just in the corners, where shadows bunch too thickly, too purposefully. And as you turn in a slow circle, the number of corners increases. 5, 6, 7. The room growing more angular with every glance, like a puzzle folding into itself. A room designed to never be escaped, but to rearrange around whoever believes they can map it. And as you back toward the center, toward the one floorboard that still feels like floor, you hear it, not from a wall, not from a shadow, but from beneath your breath. It only takes one blink, and the corners move closer. And you don't blink, not yet, but they move anyway. You're standing still, but the room is no longer still with you. Its weight pressing inward in layers, breathless folds of shadow and plaster, as if every surface has grown restless beneath its silence. And at the center of it all, as though summoned, as though remembered too clearly, is the mirror. Not hanging, not leaned, but standing upright on its own, tall and thin, like an open question carved into glass. And you know before your eyes fully adjust that she's still there, still inside it. Not a reflection, not a memory, but something more patient than both, something left behind deliberately. She doesn't move at first, not until you do. Her posture rigid, her head tilted in a way that suggests listening more than seeing. Her hair gently swaying in a breeze that doesn't touch your skin. And when you take one breath, she exhales, like you've given her permission to begin again. The mirror's surface is murky, not fogged by temperature but by resistance, like it's trying to keep her from pressing through, but failing. And you notice, with a growing tightness behind your eyes, that it's not just one mirror now, but several, stacked just slightly out of sync, each one showing her at a different delay, a different angle, a different emotion stitched just behind the face that never quite belonged to you. Her eyes are yours, or were once, but something inside them gleams with stillness too sharp to be human. A kind of stare that isn't curious or cruel, just constant. The stare of a thing that has waited too long to be looked at again. And as you take a cautious step closer, the mirrors seem to hum beneath their silver, their edges vibrating like breath caught in teeth, and one by one they begin to align, until there's only one frame again, only one face. And she's closer now, so close her forehead nearly touches the other side of the glass. You reach for the edge, fingertips brushing the cold curve of the frame, and her hand lifts in perfect mirror, but not synchronized. Half a second early, she's waiting for your movement and making it first. And it is then you understand. She isn't imitating you. You're imitating her. And every blink you've made in the last hour wasn't yours. It was her permission, her instruction, her rhythm wrapped around your thoughts. The mirror fogs slightly between you and clears in a sharp vertical line, revealing not just her face, but the space behind her. And it's not the room you're in. It's the room from before or after, the one with the clock tower and the downward stairs and the chair that remembered your shape before you ever sat in it. She tilts her head again and opens her mouth slightly, not wide, just enough for silence to spill through, and though no sound reaches you, the words are clear in the air between you. You weren't supposed to turn around. And you feel it then, behind you. Not breath, not shadow, but weight. The presence of something that has stood patiently in the corner, waiting for you to return your gaze. Something that only moves when she tells it to. And she is smiling now, not cruelly, but in recognition, in understanding, in relief. The mirror grows colder under your hands, and a small crack appears. Not from pressure, but from memory, spreading across the surface like a map of all the places you've already been but refused to name. Her hand lifts again, not in warning, not in invitation, just a gesture, like a conductor's cue. And behind you, you hear it move, slowly, no longer waiting to be seen, because she's watching now. And she never blinks. Art. It sits in the center of the room now, not where you left it, not where it appeared before, but precisely where it always ends up when you try to walk away. The suitcase. Old, soft at the edges, the leather worn down to a kind of quiet sheen that only comes from years of being held too tightly, too often. And as you step toward it, the air tightens around your ankles like thread drawing close, like the fog you left behind has followed you into the seams of the walls. The suitcase is closed, but not latched, and that matters somehow. A breath held between intentions, the mouth of the thing neither fully shut nor ready to speak, and you hear it before you touch it. Not a sound, but a pulse, subtle, steady, the slow inhale of something that does not need lungs, but mimics the rhythm anyway. And when you crouch beside it, you swear, for just a moment, the leather rises slightly, just enough to press back against your presence. You place your hand on the lid, and it's warm, impossibly warm, not like sun-touched surfaces, but like skin, like the stomach of a sleeping dog, like something alive pretending to be furniture. You hesitate, not because of fear, but because you recognize this, deep in the place behind thought where old dreams rot. This isn't just a container, it's a keeper, a collector, and the things inside, have not stayed still in your absence. You open it slowly, slower than you intend, each motion delayed by some invisible resistance, as though the suitcase is testing your certainty before giving in, and inside, not clothes, not belongings, but fragments, pieces of yourself you forgot to forget. A cracked photo frame containing not a face but a window, a mirror shard wrapped in gauze, humming faintly with your voice from yesterday. A glove you've never worn, but that fits anyway. And beneath them all, a sheet of paper, folded 3 times, with a red thread looped through its crease, your name written on it in a hand you do not recognize, followed by the words, "Pack light." They don't let you carry fear where you're going. And as you lift the paper, the suitcase exhales, a soft, warm gust against your wrist, a breath of recognition or release or warning. And underneath the lining, something shifts, not movement, but presence, like the suitcase is deeper than its shape, like the zipper is just a suggestion, and beyond, it is space that remembers everything you tried to leave behind. The long hallway with too many corners, the ticking at the base of the tower, the mirror that showed her first, the stairs that only went downward, your voice whispering, again, in the wrong direction, and you close the suitcase slowly, this time with care, not to lock it, but to seal it, to respect the breath it still holds, the memory it still breathes, and the moment you let your palm rest once more on the lid, you feel a second pulse, not yours, and it syncs with your own, once, twice, and then fades, not gone, just quieter, deeper, like it's moved beneath the floorboards, or behind the walls, or into the version of you still curled somewhere upstairs, dreaming in a room that doesn't exist anymore. And you stand, heavier now, not burdened, but reweighted, adjusted, like something you thought you'd dropped has crawled back inside your coat pocket to stay with you a little longer. And as you turn away, the suitcase shifts slightly behind you, repositioning itself as if preparing for someone else to arrive, someone following your footsteps, someone packing the same regrets into a case that will wait again. Always wait, always breathe. You lift it again because the dark has thickened, not with absence but with texture, a weight behind the shadows that no longer merely surrounds you but presses in from the edges. And the flashlight hums in your palm like it knows what's coming, like it remembers before you do. And this time when you click it on, the beam doesn't stay steady. It dances, jittering softly, not broken but intentional, a stuttering rhythm that pulses like breath converted into code. The light blinks once, pause, twice, long, short, short, long, and you freeze mid-step because your mind doesn't want to understand it, but your bones do. Something deep in your chest recognizing the pattern before your lips can catch up. It's Morse, yes, unmistakably. A language of urgency, of distance, of rescue, and memory. And the message begins to repeat, the flashlight flickering in perfect beats, spelling something you almost hear out loud before you translate it. Your name, over and over, in flashes and pulses, calling out to you from the beam itself. as though the light isn't for sight but for finding, as though something out there has been searching and the flashlight is how it speaks your name into the fog. And with every flicker, the shapes around you rearrange, the hallway you were in curving now, slightly off, walls adjusting to the light like flesh shrinking from heat. And within those walls you begin to see marks, scrawled lines, tiny indents, not scratches, not damage but letters, hand tapped into the wood like someone tried to reply. SOS, STAY, and one you don't recognize, a single dash stretched across a mirror frame that wasn't there before. The mirror, yes, again, always, leaning against the end of the corridor, tilted just enough to reflect what isn't in front of you. The light flickers again. Dot, dot, dash, dash, dot. Run. And your breath catches, because that word doesn't belong in this stillness. It breaks the rhythm of your pulse. It pulls something too sharp into the softness of your footsteps, and you hesitate, because you want to obey, but there is nowhere to run to. The corners close too quickly here. The doors lead only deeper, and the hall no longer remembers which way you came. So you turn the beam downward and follow the flickering like breadcrumbs, letting the flashlight lead, letting its coded messages tap against the walls and your bones until you come to a door you've seen before. Not in this house, not in this life, but in the photo you didn't take, in the snow globe that never melted, in the place the suitcase folded itself around, and on the door, a word, carved in angles and dots and lines, not written, not spoken, but pressed into wood like teeth into sleep. U-A-T-H. The beam steadies for a moment. No flicker, no code, just pure light. And in that stillness, you hear the sound behind the silence, the low, static rumble of the radio left on in some other version of this room, the voice that never quite finished its message, whispering now through the wiring in the walls. You're not alone. Others stay, like you, listening. And as you reach for the knob, the flashlight pulses again, one final time, not in Morse, but in breath. A single flash, then dark, as though it's told you all it can. And now it waits. Waits for you to open the door, or to turn around, or to blink just once too long and miss what comes next. And you wake up standing, which should tell you everything. Not just that time has folded again, but that you've missed something, slipped past a sign, or a whisper, or a door that was left ajar for only a breath's length. And now the hallway stretches ahead with a wrongness too subtle to name, the edges too clean, the air too still, like a stage reset between scenes you never auditioned for. The flashlight is cold in your hand now, not dead, just resting, the way someone breathes differently when they know the conversation is over. And around you, the walls have changed, cleaner, newer, brighter even, lined with wallpaper that doesn't peel but smiles in soft clinical patterns, flowers and stripes, and a kind of order that should comfort but doesn't, because everything feels too polite, too prepared, too finished. And that's when you see the sign, tucked just past a doorway that shouldn't be there, half concealed behind a curtain of shadow that parts only when you move. Exit, glowing faintly, flickering at the edges like it's trying to remember what it meant, like it's not used to being seen from this side anymore. You step toward it without urgency, the way someone steps towards something they're not sure is meant for them. and your foot crosses a threshold that feels softer than air, warmer than memory, and beyond it is a corridor with no corners, no mirrors, no doors, just soft light and a floor that hums underfoot like a lullaby. You forgot the second verse of you walk for what feels like minutes or hours or lives. And the further you go, the more familiar it feels. Like you're tracing the shape of a dream you had as a child, but never told anyone because you were afraid they'd understand it too well. And then, the sound of something clicking behind you, gentle, final, the sound of a door closing not out of anger, but out of mercy. You turn, slowly, and the hallway is gone. Not behind you, not anywhere, replaced instead by a soft grey wall with no seams and no handle. And you realise, this is the exit. Yes, but not the one you should have taken, because the real one came earlier, quieter, hidden between the tick of a cracked clock and the sigh of the mirror's breath. And you were sleeping then, sleepwalking through corners and reflections and suitcase zippers, while the door, the only real door, opened and shut without you. And now you're here, not lost, not trapped, just placed, softly, like an object returned to its shelf. And the air is still too gentle, the silence too padded, the floor too firm under your feet. And far ahead you see another light. Not exit this time, but a word half glimpsed. F-O-R. Maybe F-O-R-G-E-T. Or F-O-R. Or F-O-R. You'll never know, but because before you reach it, the corridor bends, gently, almost lovingly, and turns you toward another hallway, another room, another chance. And in the static behind your ears, the radio sighs. When this ends, something else begins. You don't need to choose. And you smile, not out of joy, but out of recognition, because the door you just passed through never needed to be opened at all. You were always going to miss it. You were always going to sleep through the exit. And the house always knew that. The hallway narrows the longer you walk it, not suddenly, not cruelly, but with that quiet insistence that comes when something is trying to remind you it was never meant to be permanent, the walls closing in one breath at a time, just enough that your shoulders begin to brush them where they didn't before, and the wallpaper peels inward, not away from the surface, but toward you, curling like fingertips around a secret they refuse to release. The light above flickers, not from power loss, but from attention. It knows when you're looking, and it prefers you not to. And the floor softens slightly beneath your steps, giving the impression that you're walking not on wood or carpet, but across the surface of something barely asleep. And that's when you realise they haven't moved in a while. Not the shadows, not the reflections, not the watchers, all still, not hiding, just waiting. Waiting for your eyes to glaze, for your thoughts to slow, for the veil of sleep to thicken just enough that they can stir, because they only move when you dream. Not during waking, not during panic, only in that thin hush between surrender and silence, where you let the story happen to you without protest, where your body forgets how to resist. And though you are walking now, upright and alert, part of you is already drifting, the part that matters, the part that unlocks the hallways between here and then. Between breath and shadow, you pass a mirror covered in cloth. a gesture of mercy that feels temporary. And even through the fabric, you sense the tension of something behind it beginning to shift, its outline bulging softly outward, as if pacing in place, rehearsing your movements in reverse. And further ahead, a photograph nailed to the wall without a frame, the paper old, buckled with heat or sorrow, showing a hallway identical to the one you walk, with a figure, blurred, standing just where you are now, eyes closed, mouth slightly open, dreaming, standing up. You blink, not out of choice but necessity, and the lights dim imperceptibly, the air warming for just a moment before cooling again, and the sound behind you, the one you haven't allowed yourself to notice, takes a step, only one, just enough, and you realize your dreaming has already begun, slow and soft, leaking out of the corners of your vision, bleeding upward from your bones, and the things that followed you, the things that waited in mirrors and clocks and fog and glass. They begin to stir, not fast, not hungry, just automatic, as if this has always been the signal, your breath slowing, your eyes unfocused, your mind fluttering toward release. And around the bend, before you even reach it, you feel them begin to align, footsteps syncing with yours but just behind, hands brushing the wall where yours passed moments ago, a shape flickering in the reflection of a turned-off television resting against a door you haven't opened yet. And in the static that coats your mind like dust, you hear a single phrase repeat. Stay asleep. They only move when you dream. And you want to turn, want to catch them in motion, want to see the shifting with your own eyes. But you know what happens if you do. You know what wakes when it's seen. And so you keep walking, slower now, your eyes slipping half shut, your grip on the flashlight loosening, and the world behind your eyelids deepens. And behind you, just beyond your reach, they begin to follow. Again, you don't remember turning into this hallway, but the weight of it is already pressing on your shoulders like confession waiting to bloom. The air thick with the kind of silence that doesn't ask for apologies. It already knows them, filed away in glass and silver, waiting patiently behind each surface that pretends to reflect. And all around you now, on both sides of the corridor, the mirrors begin. Tall, thin, wide, cracked, silvered, some old enough that their edges crumble with dust and time. Others too new to have dust at all, but all of them fixed at perfect height, perfect angle, all of them already watching. None of them show what you want to see. They don't echo your body or your face. They echo your moments, the ones you tried to tuck away behind better explanations, the truths you reshaped into safer shapes, the eyes you avoided when you told them, it's fine. I'm okay. I'll be back soon. It's just a dream. And one by one the mirrors shimmer in subtle rhythm, aligning themselves to a sequence only guilt understands. And as you walk, you begin to notice the shifts, small at first, the tilt of your head not matching the reflections, the delay in your blink, the smile that appears in glass before it reaches your lips, and then the others, the yous who didn't tell the truth, who said what they needed to be believed, who stood in front of someone and gave them a story instead of a reason. One mirror shows you younger, hands balled in fists you kept behind your back. Another shows you older, sitting on the edge of a bed you said wasn't yours. And in your lap, a photograph turned face down. And some mirrors don't show you at all, just the people you lied to. Their backs to the glass, waiting to turn around. As if the moment you admit it, they'll finally move. The hallway goes on too long, longer than it should. And now the mirrors begin whispering. Not aloud, but through temperature, through sensation. The cold glass giving off the precise chill of each moment you refused to speak what mattered, and the warmth of the ones you pretended didn't. And one mirror, closer now, fogged in the centre but pulsing with light, shows a room you haven't entered yet. A room with a suitcase open and empty, a radio playing your voice on loop, repeating just one word, almost. And when you reach out to touch the glass, your fingers press into something soft, something breathing, and it presses back. Not forcefully, but knowingly, like it's been waiting to be acknowledged. You pull your hand away and find it wet, not with moisture, but with ink, and when you look back, the mirror has begun to bleed. A slow trickle of letters running down the silver, like handwriting too honest to be spoken aloud. You said you'd come back. You said it wasn't real. You said you didn't remember. Each lie unraveling into shape, into form, into figures behind the glass that begin to stir as your heart slows. Not from exhaustion, but from reckoning. And now, across the mirror nearest to you, someone writes with their fingertip, slow and deliberate. Backwards from their side, but perfectly legible from yours. You're almost done lying. And you step back, not out of fear, but respect, and the mirror's still. And in their stillness, they reflect again. Not you, not now, but the face you'll wear when there's no one left to convince, not even yourself. It begins in your molars, a low tremor, the kind that doesn't hurt but hums, subtle and consistent, like something small tapping gently from the inside. And as you press your tongue to the back of your teeth, you feel it. That faint electric buzz, the unmistakable texture of sound without air, of language before form, and you realize the voice hasn't left the radio. It's never needed to. It lives in you now, threaded through the soft tissue behind your gums, vibrating in the hollow of each tooth like memory stuffed with wire, like something borrowed but never returned. You try to speak, but the words catch, not from fear, but because your jaw feels slightly out of place, not broken, just adjusted, like someone has moved it minutely to better shape sounds that were never yours. And when the static rises again, it doesn't come from around you, not from the corners of the room or the crackle of the radio still whispering in another version of this hallway. It comes from within, from behind your breath, from the deep marrow of your voice, and the whisper it forms is unmistakable. We've been speaking through you. You stagger back, but nothing moves to follow. Nothing needs to, because now your breath belongs to the signal, your throat a tunnel for echoes older than language. And behind your eyes, things begin to flicker. Flashes of rooms not yet entered, staircases that spiraled into water, mirrors that cracked in time with your heartbeat, and faces that blinked after yours. You reach for the flashlight and it clicks on by itself, pulsing once with a red-orange glow that feels more like a warning than illumination. and the light catches a nearby door, ajar, a sliver of darkness breathing steadily through the gap. Inside, a chair facing the wall, a television set turned to static, but with no speakers. And yet, from that corner, you hear your voice again, not speaking, but laughing. A low, gentle chuckle that isn't joy or malice, but familiarity, like someone remembering a joke only they were meant to understand. And you see it then, reflected in the dark glass of the screen, your own grin, too wide, teeth too sharp, mouth open just enough to reveal that something is wrong. Not monstrous, not alien, just misaligned. Like the smile was drawn by someone trying to remember what yours looked like from a photograph they were never meant to find. And the static rises again, louder this time, shaping syllables around that grin. And as you step closer, your jaw begins to move with it, not voluntarily, but gently, rhythmically, sinking to the voice that now uses your mouth like a doorway. We are through you now. We always were. And in your periphery, the mirrors you passed begin to cloud, not from steam or shadow, but from the heat of something behind the glass, breathing more heavily now, eager, alert, awake. And one by one, your reflections begin to smile, even when you don't. And the sound in your mouth changes shape, turning from whisper to chant, low and slow, not in language but in repetition. The cadence of names you've tried not to speak, and yours among them. Again and again, chewed into syllables and swallowed back down through your own voice, through your own teeth. And you open your mouth to scream, but only static pours out, thick and soft and endless, and it tastes like dust and glass and old radio wires. And through the noise, clear as a mirror finally cleaned, the voice says, with your breath and your lips and your teeth, this is not possession, it is recognition. And you understand now, the voice isn't inside you, you are inside it, and you don't hear it fall, you feel it, somewhere between the space behind your eyes and the slow pulse beneath your ribs. A moment folding in on itself like wet paper. Time giving way, not with violence, but with a softness that feels worse. As if it meant to do this all along. As if the structure of hours was always too fragile to carry what you were asking it to hold. The clocks don't shatter. They sag. Their faces bending like melted masks. Numbers slipping into each other until the only shape left is the curve of 3, 3, 3, over and over, engraved in glass that can no longer decide which second it belongs to, and the ticking, once constant, once comforting in its persistence, begins to stutter, to echo unevenly, as if time itself has developed a limp, dragging its weight across a floor that's no longer flat. The hallway ahead flickers, not with light, but with sequence, things appearing out of order, your own shadow stepping forward before your feet move, the radio turning off before its voice finishes your name, the flashlight blinking after your hand has already put it down, and all around you, the air fills with dust, but not dust that falls. Dust that rises, suspended, moving upward like snow in reverse. The breath of forgotten hours climbing back toward the ceiling, leaving your shoes untouched, as if even gravity no longer believes in endings. You stumble into a room that wasn't there, that was always there, that will be again, and at its center, the clock, the first one, The only one, its hands gone, its face caved inward like a wound that's forgotten how to heal. It hums, not like a machine, but like a throat remembering its last song, low and uneven, each vibration sending ripples across the glass floor beneath you, showing brief reflections of other rooms, other versions of this moment. One where the mirror cracked first, one where the suitcase was never opened, one where you didn't leave the radio on. And as the hum deepens, you see that the room is full of clocks piled against the walls, stacked in corners, balanced delicately across chairs you don't remember sitting in. All broken, all frozen, all displaying the same impossible hour, 3:33, 3:33, 3:33, again and again, like a number carved into the muscle of the world. You kneel beside the nearest one and press your ear to it, and for just a moment you hear it ticking. Not forward, not backward, but inward, each beat pulling you deeper into the moment you never escaped, the second you kept looping every time you closed your eyes and told yourself it was over. And now the ticking begins again. All of them, every clock in the room reanimating with a breathless stutter. Not in sync, but rising like a storm of noise. Each tick a different version of now. And you realize with a sharp stillness that you're not hearing time collapse. You're hearing it remember. Remember every second you tried to forget, every repetition, every warning ignored, every mirror turned away from, every flicker you chose not to chase. And above you, high in the ceiling's curve, a shape begins to appear, circular, glowing faintly, the outline of a clock face drawn in static and fog. And in its center, nothing. No hands, no center, just a spiral, turning slowly, drawing you upward, not with gravity, but with memory. And from the walls, the numbers peel off, one by one, curling in the air like ash, whispering quietly as they fall. It was always now. It was always you. And the last one, the final three, lands in your palm, warm and pulsing like a heartbeat. And as you close your hand around it, the ticking stops. The light folds inward, and the clock collapses at 3:33, and everything, finally, begins to fall. Marty, everything is quiet now, not because the noise has stopped, but because it has finished becoming. The house no longer breathes, the clocks no longer tick, the mirrors have ceased watching, and the walls, at last, have stopped leaning inward. The fog is gone, or perhaps it has become the air itself, soft and dense, and filled with the hush of endings that do not need to be explained. Above you, the ceiling is glass, wide and unbroken, and through it you see nothing but stillness. No sky, no stars, just a calm shimmer of light without source, the kind that falls only in dreams, where no one is left to ask for meaning. Your body feels light, but not empty, just unanchored, as if the gravity of memory has gently let go of you, releasing its grip on your shoulders, your throat, your breath. You lie down without knowing how, the floor cool beneath you, not cold, just smooth, just real. And for the first time since you arrived, wherever that was, your eyes do not scan the edges of the room, do not seek the mirrors, do not listen for the turning of keys or the folding of time. You just rest, not in fear, not in waiting, only in stillness. The voice that once whispered through static has softened into warmth, not speaking now, only surrounding, humming gently through your skin like distant thunder, learn to lull, and your breath slows, not because of exhaustion, but because there is nothing left to run from, nothing left to explain, and nothing more that needs your shape to continue. A clock glows faintly in the corner, still frozen at 3:33, but its presence no longer presses against your ribs. It's just there, like an old friend who has finally fallen asleep in the next room. The radio has gone silent, but it's not turned off, just resting, like you. And somewhere beneath you, beneath the glass, beneath the floor, the suitcase lies untouched, the mirror covered, the snow globe still, and the version of you that needed answers is gone now, quietly folded into the seams of the dream, replaced by this, only this moment that does not repeat, this breath that does not count, this sleep that is not borrowed but given. And as your eyelids lower and stay closed, you feel the edges of your story loosen, fray, dissolve into something wider than words. The house does not collapse. It simply forgets to continue. The hallway folds in, the mirrors fade, and the static no longer carries voices, only the memory of sound, distant and harmless. You drift, no longer held by story or shape or voice. Only sleep remains, and silence waiting